China, once a global powerhouse, is now showing cracks, and the world is watching. Why? They are struggling with exports. Fewer goods are being sent out to other countries, and people in China aren't buying a lot either. Today, we're going to talk about China's exports falling to their lowest level in 3 years. The world's growth isn't looking great, and there are problems between countries that are making things harder for trade. Let's start with the fall in China's exports. The things China sold to other countries dropped by 12.4%, which is a big drop. The stuff they bought from other countries also went down by 6.8%. This left China with more money coming in than going out. Before, many countries wanted to buy things from China, which helped China's economy grow. But ever since 2022, that's at an all-time low. This year, exports have decreased in 4 out of the 8 months. The Customs Department says global trade is terrible because countries aren't cooperating. This has slowed down trading and made things worse for everybody. China used to send many things to the United States, but now they're sending less because the two countries are having disagreements. But China is exporting more to Russia, which isn't enough to make up for the drop in trade. China relies on selling things to other countries and also on the property industry, but both of these are struggling. Because of this, it's hard for China's economy to bounce back fast after the havoc caused by COVID-19. Even though China sold a lot of stuff to other countries and its economy grew a bit, it didn't reach the goal it had set for itself. The economy only grew by 3%, which isn't so good. This happened because of the COVID-19 lockdowns that made things uncertain. And now China wants to make its economy better. Only increasing sales to other countries and spending more money on projects won't be enough. They need to deal with the fact that people are not spending much and their incomes aren't growing much either. For a long time, people in China were buying a lot of things, which helped the economy grow. They were confident that they would make more money in the future, so they spent more. This worked well for about 20 years, but now the economy isn't growing as much. Researchers found that in the past, more people had good income so that they could buy both necessary things and fun stuff. Around 2017, the growth of spending by families in China was strong. But during the second term of President Xi Jinping, this growth slowed down a lot, from 6.7% to 4%. This was much slower than how much the whole economy was growing. The pandemic and issues with technology companies made things even worse. This led to a big problem with people not having jobs, especially young folks. Since the pandemic, the difference between how much people spend and how much the economy grows has become bigger. And before the pandemic, how much each person spent in China was growing by around 6.38% each year, while the economy was growing by 6.97%. After the pandemic, this difference became even more significant, with the economy growing by only 4.5%, but people spending only 2.8% more. This was the sharpest drop in spending growth since the 1990s, even though China's economy was still growing. People in China are also earning less money. The amount of money each family has to spend each year went from growing by 11.04% to only growing by 8.39%. This means families feel more stressed about money and their economic safety than they have in a long time. China's exports had been doing good, but that didn't help regular families. This meant that China couldn't only rely on selling things to other countries to fix its economic problems. Even though China became the biggest exporter in the world in 2009 and had a big share of global exports in 2020, this hasn't made people's lives better. The amount of things China sells compared to how big its economy has actually gone down, and it's expected to follow that trend. When the economy is struggling, the usual way the government tries to help is by giving out big packages of money to stimulate growth. Yet over the last 14 years, this situation has caused local governments to owe more money. It has also connected the safety of money to a risky property market, as well as used a lot of the government's money and made it necessary to borrow more money to handle future economic problems. In the past, China has tried 2 big stimulus plans to boost the economy, but they ended up causing long-lasting problems. After the 2008 financial crisis, China used around $586 billion from 2008 to 2010 to help the economy. This worked, and the economy grew a lot in 2009 and 2010. China even became the world's second largest economy in 2010, but this quick growth came at a cost. Local governments needed a bunch of money, so they made special companies called LGFVs to help them get even more money. But they borrowed money from banks, and since they're struggling to give the money back, it's also creating issues for the banking system. Back in 2015 to 2016, China used about $805.2 billion to help its economy because the stock and property market was not doing well. This didn't work as well as the first time, making the old problems even worse. Research from the IMF shows that it costs more money to get the same amount of growth from 2015 to 2016 compared to 2008. When the pandemic happened, China's government told local governments to use bonds to build roads and other projects. They spent around $5.3 trillion to boost the economy. Even with these efforts, the economy only grew by 3% in 2022. This left many provinces with an enormous debt problem, as a quarter of them are now forced to use over half of their money to pay back debts by 2025. China also focused more on supporting big businesses. Unlike the US, where some help went to households, China's relief measures often missed out on unemployed workers and recent graduates. Lately, leaders in China have understood that it's essential for people to buy things that can help make the economy better. They made plans to boost consumer spending and promote long-term growth. In a meeting in December 2022, China's leaders talked about helping people use their money to buy things instead of only making investments and selling things to other countries. This might mean they understand it's crucial to fix the issue of people not spending enough money in China. This year will be important because China might switch its focus from creating and selling things to getting people to use their money. Changing main ideas in China takes time, especially when it involves money from local governments. China's leaders encourage spending money, but changing how they manage money and how people handle it will be challenging. For a while, Chinese leaders made rules to save money and focus on making things to sell to other countries. But now, they want people to use their money to buy things for themselves. Making this change won't be easy. Not when the major banks in China usually give money to big companies and aren't very good at helping regular people with their money. In 2022, for example, Chinese banks gave money to companies and then allowed them to put the same money back in the bank at the same interest rate. This means that Chinese banks are better at giving money to big companies. When these companies don't need a lot of money, the banks have a hard time helping other people, like everyday shoppers. Over the past 15 years, the financial situation of the average Chinese household has become worse. The growth of money families has been slowing down since 2010, which worsened because of the pandemic. A Chinese company named Zhongdai Securities shared a report. It said that between 2011 and 2019, the amount of money that families had grew less. It used to grow by about 20%, but it only grew by 13%. During the pandemic, it went even lower, below 10%. A lot of the money that families have is in China's unstable property. A survey by China's central bank in 2019 showed that houses made up about 70% of what families own, and most of the money families owe is because of mortgages, which make up 75.9% of all the debt. This situation was similar in the United States before the 2008 financial crisis and in Japan during the 1980s. Between 2008 and 2022, the amount of money families owe compared to the country's total money went up from 17.9% to 61.9%. This happened at a rate of about 17.6% every year. Then in September 2021, it reached a record high of 62.4% of the country's money. Research from the IMF shows that when people owe a lot, they might spend more in the beginning, but then spend less after a couple of years. This is not good for the economy. Families owing money have been growing faster than how much money they make. Between 2007 and 2022, the money families owed went from $517.66 billion to $10.86 trillion, which is a big jump. When Xi Jinping was leading, families' income grew by around 6.25% each year, but the amount of money they owed compared to their income went up from 68.7% in 2013 to 161.5% in September 2022. This is higher than in the United States, where it was 119.8%. From 2011 to 2021, the number of mortgages people were getting increased greatly too. This made the amount of debt they had compared to their income go up by 33.8 percentage points, which was the fastest increase in the whole world. During the same time, their income only went up by 10% each year. More and more families in China are borrowing a lot of money. This, combined with lockdowns, pay cuts, job losses, and new rules, has made people worried about their money, and it's hurting their economy. This is a big challenge for China. They've dealt with issues like trade and exports, but now they need to figure out how to encourage families to spend more money to help the economy. Do you think they can make the Chinese people spend more now when many worry about their money? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon. And make sure to watch the next video.